Save you.
Yeah, I think what you meant to say is
Behoof.
it would
Yes, a
behoove
word I love using when Nikki's on the line.
you. It's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna take a biking hiatus, and I'm like, but why would you do that if it's something that you really love? And he's like, well, I'm gonna do it all the time. I'm like, um, that's not what hiatus means. Figure skaters look like spinning acorns.
Didn't like that
Yep.
word. Yeah, good times. Oh, listener. Hello. That wasn't even words. We should try this again. Well, hello, listener. I'm Scott Babcock, and we're starting a brand new podcast journey today. The concept for this podcast is we are going to bring on guest interviewees or take on larger topics and chunk those up into smaller bite-sized pieces and put out what we're going to call micro podcast episodes. Really excited about the format of this. I think it takes these large concepts, helps break them down into smaller elements that are easy to digest and easy to break apart. And then we're going to apply that back to the art of learning and development and leadership, as many of these may not be direct correlations, but we want to try to find some nuggets of truth that are in there. Welcome to the show. This is Short Winded. I am excited for our inaugural episode. Today, I am going to be sharing with you a snippet from my interview with an Enneagram practitioner who's been in the training and development industry for about the last 15 years. Also, a personal friend of mine, so very excited to bring in this. I'm going to be talking with Nikki Meyers. And again, over the course of the next few episodes, you're going to get to hear snippets from my interview with her, where we're going to talk about all things Enneagram, a bit about what it is, how it applies, some of the work she's doing, and what drove her into this. So I'm really excited to kind of break down all things Enneagram. I will admit that I am a brand new newbie to the concept and the topic, so I'm very excited to kind of dive deeper with her and sort of deconstruct the thoughts that are going on in my head as we talk through it and share that with you. In our first clip, though, I thought, where better to begin than the beginning? So let's start with some of the history of Enneagram, what it is, what it's not, how it can be applied, and sort of a primer to the rest of the conversations that we're going to have.
Got it?
RHETI test
Oh.
results.
Oh yeah, ready. Yeah. That's the Rizzo Hudson
Oh,
Enneagram
there you
Type
go.
Indicator Assessment, in case you wanted to know the acronym.
All right, there. I've got it in front of me now, so I can just speak semi-intelligently, like when we talk about things, so I'll remember what I did. But yes, I'm a Type 5, apparently. I have a tie, though. Is a tie?
Yeah.
It's not really a tie, though, because one actually did score higher than the other.
Yeah, and I think was your next highest one? It was a 6
514.
or a 1. 514. Yeah. That just so okay. Before we dive into all of this stuff, the assessment isn't necessarily the best way to figure out your type. I'll explain what I mean with that. But what it does is when you answer all of the different questions, and you probably saw it would or statements rather, it would have like statements that were kind of
Yeah.
worded the same but a little different. So it looks at like kind of what your top ones would be. The real work is after you read the description and think, yeah, that really does sound like me, and start kind of doing the work. Some people, it's really clear. I'm a Type 7, the enthusiast and the adventure, hashtag not surprised. But so for me it was really easy. I think I was like 99% for that one, and then my next highest was like a percent. And so it was like pretty clear my type. For some people, it's really hard to determine what that is. And so it just gives you an idea. But if you read the description and you get that kind of feeling like a little sick, but kind of like, yep, that's me, then you've likely landed on your type. But what it would say then is that your next most likely type would be a 1, which is the perfection.
Hashtag also not surprised. Yeah. Yeah. So lots of great information there. The biggest takeaway for me is that I was definitely one of the people that was on the astrology perspective of what Enneagram was. So I will come into this saying I was probably a bit of a skeptic or a cynic. I've taken a number of these behavioral assessments, not just the ones we find on Facebook to find out what Disney princess you are. But rather just some of the behavior elements of how you might show up in your work or the way you interact with your relationships. I will say in talking with Nikki, and we're going to break down a lot of this as we have future episodes and we kind of take on more and more of the topic. One of the things that I really like about this is that it is built in the how do you perceive yourself, not just how do you act. So a bit of the why you choose to do things, some of your self awareness and self realization on the behavior traits that you might have. And the more we talked, and again, we're going to break these things down, but the more we talked, I realized how many of the elements that were part of my own assessment were found within the way I think, not just the way I do and the way I act. And so many of the behavior elements of these can drive you to think you are a certain way. We're gonna talk a lot about the fact that the Enneagram, the work that we're doing, the way it's sort of laid out, and the process you go through is about understanding some of your deeper motivations, and then really looking at how can you grow yourself across all elements of what makes us personality and what makes up our personality. Excuse me. So really, I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk about the fact that training and development, learning, leadership, all of this is about a helping ourselves find out ways to improve. What is our own growth journey? And Nikki mentioned some of that. That this is about that self awareness and what can I do to get better. But also as coaches or leadership focused employees, and you have direct reports. How do you also help them strive to understand who they are, what some of their motivations are, and desire more for themselves and want to grow and develop themselves more, potentially in their interpersonal relationships with their spouse, family, and friends, their working relationships, their professional relationships, the way they sort of attack problems in the workplace. And I think there's a lot of opportunity as we kind of go through this topic for that that moment of, call it aha, where you think to yourself, oh, now I get why I choose to react that way, or ways that I might um, interact in a different way, or even some of the triggers that I might be inflicting or affecting in others, and how I can better mitigate some of those things that might be issues for other people. So I think a lot of this is the self awareness piece. I'm really excited to tackle this topic in a way that I truthfully, in starting it off, wasn't 100% sure that I would be. In all fairness, I was a bit skeptical, like I mentioned, and the more we talked, the more I realized ways that I can adapt this to myself, and I think that's a really important element of this is that everybody's kind of take this as a personal journey, and that there isn't a lot of stereotyping or generalization that we can do within that space. Looking forward to our next time to share the next segment we'll be doing. So look forward to episode 2 and hearing more from Nikki on all things Enneagram. One of the elements that we utilized within our last podcast, for those listeners that are coming over from the If You Build It, Will They Learn podcast, I would still love to share some positivity at the end of every episode. So, really excited to share this one. Both of my boys, for those that know, I'm a dad of two boys, 10 and 8. And sports is typically a lot of what they do, but both of them have decided to tackle some new sporting activities, broaden their horizons a little bit. So both of them are taking on new spring sports this year. My youngest is into soccer. I will admit this is the one sport I prepped him ahead of time and told him I can't coach you in this, because it's a sport I know very little about. But he is embracing it. He loves it. I think it's just a lot of it is an ability for him to burn off some of that energy. He's very much a mover and a shaker, does not like to sit still well. So soccer is an opportunity for him to just kind of always be on the go. And I think he really likes it. And from what I can tell, I think he's doing pretty well at it for just getting started. And then my older son has decided that he would love to get into the world of football. So he's playing flag football. I didn't realize that this isn't just a weekend goof around thing that kids and even adults will do. I always thought of it as more of an intramural sport in college kind of a thing, but no, here, at least in Tennessee, it is kind of a big deal. There's a lot of kids, and it's super fun. It's in partnership with the NFL, so they all get to wear jerseys. Go Bills! That's our boy's team, and he's really enjoying it. I'm enjoying something different, which is great, and getting to be a spectator and just be their biggest fan. So something new for this spring for us, and happy to embrace it. Gets us out enjoying some warm weather that's coming. So very excited. That's going to do it for me today. I am really excited to start this journey with everyone and kind of explore some new worlds and some new topics that maybe we can deconstruct and apply back to learning and development. Thank you for listening to Short Winded. Every episode is brought to you by the masterful artistry of our producer, Sabrina Pontoni. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. The best part of the show comes when we hear from you. Join the conversation or request to be a guest interview by emailing podcast@haylight.com. And be sure to check us out on social media at Haylight Media. And don't forget, we're also on the web, www.haylight.com. That's HALIGHT.com.